Hello everybody, welcome to another day of Cosmoteer. I know it's been a little bit, everyone has been waiting for a little bit more Pause Cosmoteer Grand Admiral Engage, but it has been some time and I put out a challenge for a bunch of people and people did step up to the challenge. Now my first challenge was to build me a ship that costs the same or less that can fight overclocked weapons. Now we can see that some people did build some ships that could actually do that. This is one of Butter's designs. You can see it's a lot cheaper, it's pretty fast, and it totally can tank overclocked railguns for a bit. But you can see right here, even overclocked railguns with the way that they're designed, a lot of times overclocked railguns even pierce through many overlapping shields. I even went and took the test and took overclocked railguns, not just the IM, but the Thanatos, which is obviously the most powerful at the moment. And because the way overclocked railguns are designed, the only thing that can stop them are overclocked flak cannons. However, overclocked flak cannons, most of the time, don't actually even block overclocked railgun shots. So your only alternative really is to layer stack overclock shields, which can cause a whole bunch of problems. Now right here you can see it's not winning all the time, but you can see it does eventually win, maybe sometimes, but not all the time. But you can see just the amount of overclock shields you have on here, just against 2 overclock railguns, just to try to beat them is significantly challenging. Especially with the amount of speed that this is going back. It goes 94 plus. So it goes really fast. I went and took the IM and I took the Thanatos and I tested. If this one does eventually, maybe possibly can win, but it doesn't win all the time, but it can in some cases. There was another ship that was also designed in our Discord channel to be able to beat just specifically this channel, this particular ship. And it was to design a ship, any ship, no matter how you can design it, to beat this one right here. Just because overclocked railguns, really the only thing that can stop it are overclocked shields, which has a high chance of overheating, and you can see the amount of heat exhaustion you need to put on just to block only 2 overclocked railguns, mind you. And you can also see the enemy ship has overclocked flat cannons too. But you can see right here, it takes a bit for something that costs very similar just to stop overclocked railguns. Now, the main reason why I'm hitting on this is overclocked railguns cannot be blocked by point defenses anymore, for whatever reasons that was designed. And the other thing too is during the preview, you needed to the actual railgun itself could heat up. Now you can literally just add a tiny bit of heat exhaustion to the railgun itself, and it could stop it. Now this design can't stop the Thanatos, because the Thanatos needs even more layer stacking of shields than you can possibly imagine to be able to tank it. But there is no alternative to stopping overclocked railguns right now in the game. And so that's the whole reason why I haven't continued with my No Pause Cosmoteer Grand Admiral Engage, because as of right now, with the way that the game is, stopping overclocked railguns are literally a challenge that can be beyond expectations. Now the next challenge that I had in here was to build me a ship that can beat the Thanatos for the same cost or less and build a ship. So I literally took the Thanatos and I literally faced it against every single combat ship in the game, and there's only a few combat ships that actually can beat it, which I found, and that's only because it cheats it. And let me show you real quick one of the ships that can technically, let me find it here real quick. I can't remember the exact name it was. It might not even be in this one. It might be IO as well. But there is a ship, and what we found, and I gave the suggestion to Hoshell, and I said, this is the only way that I know how to beat the Thanatos in a weird fight. And we ended up designing something, Hoshell designing something like this. And you're going to see the one weakness that overclocked railguns have is when they're shooting at frames, they don't destroy frames very well, as you can see. So overclocked railguns, you can kind of cheat the game by doing this, because like what many people have said, you can dodge, but people don't realize that a Thanatos has so much reverse thrust, as you can see, and it also has side thrust, so you can't use an orbiter We've tried that. You can't use a ship that can try to go faster. You can't use a ship that has crazy shields most of the time against the Thanatos, because just 6 overclocked railguns pound through almost every single layer stacking of shields that you can imagine. But I was proven wrong, and I'll show that ship here shortly, that you actually can tank 6 overclocked railguns from a Thanatos. Not all the time, but you can. And I will showcase that ship, which is designed by O'Shell, which has proven that it is still possible to actually do that. But you can see right here, this is the only way you know how so far that we've came up with, and this challenge is still for everybody. Build a ship that's the exact same cost as the Thanatos or less, without using railguns, overclocked railguns, and without using overclocked flat cannons, and beat the Thanatos in a 1v1 front-facing AI battle. And you will see that this challenge is much more harder than you can imagine, because literally the game in the current state is pushing everybody to overclock railguns. And so, in my own personal opinion, until there's some kind of balance with overclock railguns, like maybe point defenses can actually maybe help prevent some shots, or maybe overclocked flat cannons can maybe actually block more shots than they actually do now. The test that I did was I literally took a ship that had all overclocked flat cannons and tried to see if it would block the actual overclocked railgun shots with shields. It doesn't do it. 6 overclocked railguns will blast right through them. And so that's why I was like, okay, there needs to be at least some more balance. I know a lot of people love railguns and they love overclocked railguns and they're not blocked anymore, but that's a balance issue in my case, in my personal opinion, because I don't play with railguns, and the only option to stop a ship that goes this fast backwards, this fast sideways, and has only even 6 overclocked railguns. Think of how players can build even more overclocked railguns. The amount of power the overclocked railguns has in the current game state is really overpowering. All right, so now that you've seen that, you know, we have another ship that can basically cheat the system. There's this other ship that O'Shell has designed. I took it one version up just because I saw there was a minor flaw that it had. And one version that I had up was I literally put an overclocked fire extinguisher here and another fire extinguisher. The main reason the overclocked fire extinguishers is, as you'll clearly see, the amount of layer stacking of overclocked shields you need. Now remember, it has to be the same cost or less to beat the Thanatos, and this ship is the exact same cost as the Thanatos. This is how many shields you need to block 6 overclocked railguns on both sides. And you can clearly see that even some shots will get through and blow up some of these shields. And you'll also overheat, which you'll see here shortly too. So this is how much, and then you need crazy speed, and you need to be light enough to go fast enough to catch a Thanatos. Now again, the challenge is still out there. Build me a ship that costs the exact same as the Thanatos or less, and beat it in a 1v1 AI battle. Now the downsides to this ship, which I've also taken, was take this ship and then try to put it as a fleet to try to flank the Thanatos. Doesn't work so good because the Thanatos literally goes almost 100 backwards, and it's got super maneuverability. Overclocked railguns, as you can see, even with this much heat exhaustion and this much heat everything, and the batteries, thermal batteries, the shields still overheat. And in this particular playtest that you're seeing, none of the shields actually blew up, but many times the Thanatos will still pierce through these shields and blow up some of these shields. With this many, every single one of these shields is overclocked, and they're layer stacked upon layer stacked just to block 6 overclocked railguns, because there's no other way to stopping them. Flat cannons, overclocked flat cannons doesn't do it. There's just so much power behind. And let me just showcase just how powerful it is. Now, this ship right here, the team was having so much fun. They were going back and forth. They were collaborating back and forth. O'Shell took it, and then I took it, and now I've taken it all the way to obviously let's change my name. And I went all the way up to 3.8. I've actually done more. I've been going back and forth with this ship. This ship doesn't stand a chance against the Thanatos, not at all. But what I'm trying to show you is the amount of mining lasers and the placement of it, and the crew cost. Only 116 crew for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which makes 16 mining lasers And this ship goes, I think now it goes about 92.3, so it flies fast. But let me just show you something here on just how powerful the Thanatos is. Even if you have 3 ships or 4 ships, doesn't even matter. Tons of decent amount of armor, decent amount of shielding for its cost range and what it does. The Thanatos just blows right through them like nothing, like it's butter. And there's no way to stop it. Okay, I have tons of point defenses, and again, point defenses are completely ineffective against overclocked railguns because that's the way the game state is currently. And overclocked flat cannons do not block overclocked railguns, as you can see, and you can see how fast it flies backward, and it also can pivot super fast. So trying to use an orbiter against the Thanatos is useless. Like I said, I've tried almost every variation combat ship versus the Thanatos in a 1v1, and overclocked railguns pierce through everything. Even if you were to take other ships that you would think you were trying to build like even bigger or better, or you're trying to do something with it. Let me just showcase this. Here it is. This one right here. 2.5 million. Okay, not just 2.5 million. It's got flat cannons. All overclocked flat cannons. You would think all overclocked flat cannons, and with this many shields, you'd be able to stop at least some shots. And yeah, you block maybe 1 shot. But the thing is, the way the overclocked railguns are designed right now, even overclocked flat cannons do not fire fast enough to block the shots. And some people mention, oh, maybe you can just dodge left and right. Look at the Thanatos, look at its side thrusts. There's no way you're orbiting or getting around this. The only way to get to the Thanatos is through the front. Or to use some cheat tactics, put mines behind it or put an asteroid behind it. Flanking this ship, you need such a fast ship. But because of the way the AI is designed, and this is where I found out the frames. This is how I just suggested to Hoshell. I said, hey, Hoshell, this is the only way I know how to cheat the Thanatos right now, is the frames. And eventually this ship will then finally catch up to this ship and finally do damage. And like I said, this ship can technically beat the Thanatos. But you can see this is not what I consider a real fight. A real fight is the front to front facing and actually face them. So right now the game is pushing everybody to overclock railguns. I will happily admit, overclock railguns at the current state of the game are the most powerful weapon in the current game. I feel like it needs to be balanced because my playstyle does not point to overclock railguns. There is no way to stop overclock railguns really in a realistic battle, because you can see how many overclock shields and layer stacking of shields, and as you saw just before this other ship, just how many shields you need to tank only 6 overclock railguns. So if you literally make a ship just all overclock railguns on it, you can just ram through shields and everything and no problem. Now non-overclock railguns, you can stop the rail shots with point defenses, a lot of point defenses, and you can stop the shots with enough flat cannons. But you can see this ship, it's only flat cannons. There's a heat weapon on this side and a heat weapon on this side, but most of it's overclock flat cannons with shields. It still doesn't block this. It's some crazy firepower, yeah. And so just, I know I'm going on the huge on this, just want to showcase it is possible to do. I literally had given up and I was like, okay, I'm not interested in playing at the moment with the current game state. But then a few people put the challenge in my Discord channel and they stepped up to the challenge. I'm super happy about that. There are ships that can be built to beat this, but realistically, with the same cost range, I'll pull this ship back up again. Remember, this ship has no armor or anything on it. Now, Hoshell did design another ship, but you can see the cost rise. It's now costs more than this ship, and crew and everything costs more. And even this ship, even though he put more weight and tried to make it as an actual ship, doesn't always win against a Thanatos. I'll show you this right here. So say, for example, you're trying to actually build a ship like this. The thing is, because he added so much extra weight and everything else on it, and this is where you're going to see the shield problem. And he's freaking out, doesn't have a door here, it looks like. You're missing a door, Hoshell, whenever you watch this. Anyways, the amount of shields you have to layer stack on this, and actually I can see why this ship can actually lose. He has less shields on this compared to the previous version. trying to make this into an actual ship. Because I've seen this ship lose. Now maybe it'll win during this live stream, but I've seen this ship lose against 6 overclocked railguns. And for some reason, did they already change it? The railgun's now overheating. I mean, the developer may have already pushed out a patch, changed it. I don't know. Because as honestly, overclocked railguns were just super powerful. Like Thanatos never overheated, but now I see that it might be overheating, which will then actually make it more worth it. Because before, when the game first came out, the game came out with the release of the actual overclocked railguns. They were beyond powerful, which now I see that at least I saw some overheating. Before, it wasn't ever overheating, and it was just ripping through shields and ripping through everything. Alright, that's what I wanted to showcase. It's just the overclocked railguns are very, very powerful right now in the game. I'm sure they're fun for people that enjoy playing with that playstyle, and I'm sure that they will do really cool things with it, but it's not my playstyle. So until they balance it out a little more, I'm gonna wait for them to balance it out so we can actually beat ships like this. Because overclocked railguns, there really is no way to stop it without, unless you have crazy tank ability with shields, or you play with overclocked railguns yourself. That's the only way I see doing it, because I've literally faced Thanatos against tons of different variations, multiple ships. You gotta be going, see right here, close to a 98 to catch up to a Thanatos. And then you gotta be able to tank all those shots and then blow it up. Now, if you were to throw in more than one of these ships, because the way the AI works, it's gonna try to flank and not go straight down the middle. And then the Thanatos will get in different angles, and it will literally, if you don't have enough shields to block it, it will just rip right through you. Interesting how during the live stream, this ship doesn't ever actually get blown up. Pretty neat. I enjoy what people have created. They've created a lot of neat new things. My favorite one that I'm coming into is to build a better version of a 16 mining laser ship that is actually functional, that can actually beat a lot of things. We're going to go back to this one real quick. I was showcasing just the overclocked railguns here in the beginning of it. But right here, in a 1v1, and I know I like to come back to this ship a lot, but I'd like to test its missiles. The Polaris has a good amount of missiles and a good amount of tank ability for a medium-sized mid-game ship. Skill issue. I'm sure you can also use tractor beams and other things to be able to beat overclocked railguns. But if you're playing it on Grand Admiral, and overclocked railguns do 40% more damage, and you do 30% less damage, show me a ship that can beat a Thanatos in a 1v1 for the same cost or less. On Grand Admiral, remember, 40% more damage, you do 30% less. 1v1 the Thanatos. Prove to me it can be done, and I will gladly bow down to you and say, hey, amazing props. In the current game state, before they fix it. Because I'm sure the developer or other people will bring it up eventually when they run into it. Play in Grand Admiral. Face Thanatos, 1v1. Same cost or less. Prove to me it can be done. You ask her. And I'm sure you can use probably tractor beams. That's something I don't play with. That's a huge possibility that can be done. There's other things that could be used too, I'm sure. But it's all about playstyle. It's what options you have to play the game. If you have another suggestion that it's skill issue, please let me know. I would love to see a ship. Just prove me wrong. I'm happily to be proved wrong. Yeah, Grand Admiral is a fun play level. But these ships are pretty neat. This one right here. Now, for those that are wondering where to get the ship, I'm only going to leave it in our Discord channel. So if you want this 16 mining laser ship, and then for some reason now it's doing horrible. The 16 mining laser ship, it can sometimes 1v1 a Polaris. It's got good speed and go up to 92.3, I think. 92.3 speed. It can 1v1 tank the Polaris sometimes. I still need to work on it. It's still a work in progress, but it is in our action score channel if you guys are looking for a ship that literally has been collaborating back and forth. It has tons of point defenses, good amount of shields, fun ship to play if you're not looking for just playing with overclocked railguns. It does not compete against overclocked railguns at all in the current game state until something is at least changed there. It's really overpowered. And so that's why I'm not finishing the No Pause Admiral Engage, because there are multiple Thanatoses, and just trying to even face one. None of the ships that I build or have designed, and that's why I put the challenge on our Discord channel, design some ships that can beat it, so that we can actually face and beat a Thanatos in a semi-fair fight without using railguns and without using overclocked flat cannons, and beat it some way. But right now, there's no real way to stop the shots. And you can see right here, this ship is now walking away. 1v1 Polaris. Normally you would play with more than one of these, but 16 mining lasers. I love the collaboration that happened on our Discord channel. All the placement of the mining lasers, the actual design. It's got defense in the back. Let me show the other showcasing in this as well, where if you take multiple ships, then we've designed, we've worked on so many at the moment. We'll come over here. This one. You take 3 of these, and here's another test for people too that people don't test their own ships on, is swarming capability. Can your ship take on swarm damage? And what I mean by swarm damage is your ship defended enough in the back to actually take on damage when coming from the back as well. Now, all these ships have overclocked disruptors and overclocked mining lasers. I know it's not a crazy amount of damage, but it's enough damage to normally rip through a decent amount of things. And you can see it's taking on damage from the back. I don't remember the last time I tested this for the sword method, but the AI sometimes does some silly things. But in most cases, this ship will walk away. It will take some decent damage from the back. As you can see, it's still taking damage from the back. But it can hammer through this one, and then once the AI decides to go to the next one, it's going to flip around. And it still sustains damage in the back, but the armor's placed in specific areas. It ripped off a bunch of things. But anytime you test your ships, always test your ships so that you can take damage from the back, because if you're playing an actual normal gameplay, you will notice that those ships will do damage to your back, and you want to see how much damage your ship can take from the back and still hold its armor up and not actually get destroyed. And I would say 3 ships of any ship. I never tested against this other one. This one right here. I have a rolling challenge. I know I haven't put it in there, but my interest in playing Cosmoteer kind of faded away when they made overclocked railguns literally the most powerful weapon in the game, and there is nothing that can stop it except playing with overclocked railguns yourself, or making a ridiculous amount of shields, or the cost-wise you have to spend so much more to beat a Thanatos just to be on the same level. Anyways, this ship right here, I have 3 of them, and this is the swarming test I have for anybody. Build a single ship that costs the same or equal value of all these 3 ships, that can take on all 3 ships in an AI battle, because you can see right here, they're literally tearing up the back or tearing up the sides. They have great maneuverability, and you'll see they'll purposely force the ship in different angles, and see if you can take on 3 of these ships with one big ship in an AI battle. As you can see right here, this ship does not do it. I have another ship that can take on 3 of these, which Wholesale designed. We help modify, collaborate back and forth. But that's the challenge. Take on 3 of these, which is in my Discord, in a 1v1 for the same or near cost, 1.2 million, with 84 crew, one big ship, and beat these 3. And we have one ship, I know one ship that can do it. But that's the current selling challenge. So I have 2 of those challenges going on. Beat the Thanatos, 1v1, beat the Swarm. See how well you can do. And that's how you get better at building ships. For anybody that's watching or watches my videos or want to see how they get better, this is how you design ships to get better. Is you challenge them versus ships that were going to really challenge your ship. What's hitting from behind, hitting from the side, hitting from different angles, ripping away your shields, ripping out the back, and then just see how long your ship can actually last. And then you know you have either a decent ship or the ship needs a little bit of work, or you need to change a few things, or add a little bit of armor, add more shields, add more damage, add more speed. All those things take into account. I can see that this ship has the damage, but unless I'm actually player controlling it, I'd have a lot harder time defending it against the back. And so my suggestion is I already pivot this back. I need to give Hoshell this most recent version, which I've already spent all day working on. This is version 3.8, and I went even higher. I had to roll it back a couple times. But you can see this ship can win sometimes, but what I really like to do is put two small overclock shields somewhere in here. Maybe this needs to expand out more to cover the back in some form or fashion. That would be the last best thing for this. I mean, it has armor, as you can see. It still lasts and still won against those three, but it survived with heavy damage in the back. And all it needs is just two small shields covering the back some way, and it will do a lot better. Again, this ship is only going to be in our Discord, so if you want it, it's there right now. It's there for anybody to download and play with. But that's this one right here, this 16 mining laser ship, which is 116 crew. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to go back to family stuff. So if you enjoyed this content, please feel free to hit the like button. It helps me out a ton. Helps to push out this content to other people, bring awareness to it. If you like, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, especially what you don't like so that I can improve and make better content. If you have not already, please feel free to subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, that's okay as well. Come back once a week, once a month. Check out what content I have. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. You all have a wonderful rest of your day.